Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for GODORT's virtual annual meetings. My name is Julia Ezzo, and I'm the chair of the Government Documents Roundtable. I'm also the Government Information Packaging and Political Science Librarian at Michigan State University. All of these meetings are recorded, so I just wanted to let you all know that recordings will be made available on the LibGuide for these events after. Um, so we can go ahead and get started with GODORT 101, Getting to Know the Government's Documents Roundtable. GODORT was established in 1972, and it's a dynamic forum where information professionals learn, discuss, advocate, and create scholarship on and about government information at all levels of government. So local, state, national, international. If it touches on government, we care about it. We want to protect it and preserve it and keep it accessible. So any member of ALA may elect to become a personal member of GODORT by paying the Roundtable's annual dues. Roundtable members who are personal members of ALA receive the right to vote and hold office. ALA and GODOR offer special membership rates for library school students. What does GODOR do? GODOR is a highly active community. We work on federal, state, local, and international government information in all forms. We're a community for learning. We have our Help, I'm an Accidental Government Information Librarian webinar series, our Kenya S Flash lecture series with PIPPERS, which is the politics, policy, and international relations sections of the Association of College and Research Libraries section. We're a community for teaching. We have active LibGuides for sharing expertise and multiple lecture series. And we're a community for action. GODORT members are active in projects like the highly collaborative end-of-term web archiving project. And we're a community for community. We have our Friday GODORT chats, which happen on the first Friday of every month, and cover different topics and allow you to chat informally about whatever the topic is or anything that is of interest to you. And we have a variety of elected officer positions. We have the chair-elect, which is a 3-year term. Basically, it's chair-elect, chair, and then past chair for GODORT. We have the 1-year secretary and then the treasurer role, and then also either the ALA counselor position, which when our membership numbers climb, we have our own dedicated counselor, which we are fortunate to have this upcoming year. So we have a variety of committees and interest groups. And as some of you may know from me and from others, there is going to be some changes taking place with our committee structures in this upcoming year, starting around November. But ultimately, the work that is done by these committees will stay the same. There's just going to be some slight restructuring for the structure of GODORT, but the work will continue, which is why I'm going to talk about them, even though some changes may happen in the very near future. But rest assured, all the projects that these groups are still doing are going to continue. The good work is still going to continue. Some of these committees just may transition to an interest group. Some may merge a little bit. But for right now, they do still exist. So we have awards conference, cataloging, development, education, and so on. So we have a whole bunch of ways to get involved. All of our committees have volunteer opportunities that draw on regional expertise, and they don't necessarily require membership in the committee to participate. Our awards conference committee, they run our awards program, and you'll see a list of our various awards that we have. We have both personal awards as well as a preservation grant. And then they also plan our awards reception at the annual event. So if you're heading to Chicago in a couple of weeks, our awards event will be held on Sunday night. So please check our LibGuide for our virtual events. It also has a tab for what's happening at the in-person annual event. So please check those out. And if you're able to, please RSVP to attend our awards event. We have our cataloging committee. They are meeting tomorrow at 12 p.m. Central Time, and their purpose is to provide a technical discussion and policies and practices for government documents cataloging, working with catalogers, things like that. So this is one of the committees that will probably be transitioned to an interest group in later this year. But their focus will still remain the same. They're still going to be focusing on cataloging. They're still going to be working on updating our wonderful toolboxes that we have. Um, they're just going to be changing slightly in how they're structured. Our development committee works on interacting with individuals and donors for getting funding to help GODORT do all of our wonderful work, as well as to maintain our awards and things like our preservation grant. So they are critically important to the work of GODOR, especially given the current financial crisis in ALA. So it's very important that we have a strong development committee, and we are very lucky that we have such a wonderful committee doing all of that fundraising and outreach and relationship building with various donors, both individual and corporations. Our education committee is meeting on Thursday at 12 p.m. Central Time, and their primary role is to help figure out the needs of the community and to create educational program and guides and things of that nature to help meet those needs. And so this is something that their guides, like their voting and election toolkit, is something that is maintained by wonderful volunteers in the community. So it's a great way if you have some time to get involved. Working on the different guides is a great way. If you don't have the time available to be a full member of any of these committees, there's always the volunteer opportunities like that. We have the Government Information for Children Committee, GIC, which is meeting tomorrow at 1 p.m. Central. And their focus is on government information for K-12 students, librarians, and educators. So they have wonderful LibGuides um, for librarians and educators working with K through 12 students. And they are maintained by a wonderful group of volunteers. This is another committee that is going to be transitioned to an interest group in the upcoming year. But like I said, their work, their projects are still going to continue on. It just will allow for more people to get involved to do that work without having to be official GODORT members or officially named to a committee. Our legislation committee meets on Thursday at 11 a.m. Central. They identify issues requiring legislative action. They prepare and advise resolutions for membership steering committee, etc. They assist the ALA Washington office on issues affecting federal government legislation, and they assist and coordinate legislative action with other ALA bodies. So one of their major projects is a Federal Depository Library Advocacy Plan for GODOR. But as many of you know, there is a lot of things coming out of the federal government, and so the legislation committee is keeping a close eye on what the federal government is doing and various acts and potential acts, and working with ALA Washington office to respond to those as appropriate. Our membership nominating committee is meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central, and they actively promote membership in both ALA and, of course, GODOR. And they maintain communication with state and local affiliates, and they coordinate the nomination process for GODOR's elected positions, as well as for the Depository Library Council, which is part of the government publishing office. Our programming slash help slash Kenya Flash lecture series committee. And they're going to be meeting on Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time. And their purpose is to implement GODOR programs. As I mentioned, there will be some restructuring, and the plan is for the programming committee to merge with the education committee to become an educational initiatives committee. So that way it's one group focusing on all educational initiatives and programming, webinars, things like that, that come out of GODORT. So that way we're working to eliminate duplication of efforts across committees, and to make it easier for these programs to happen without tons of cross-committee communication. It makes more sense given how closely education and programming currently work together to just merge them together. So that way it's more streamlined and we can be more efficient with getting continuing our wonderful programming and our wonderful collaboratives with groups such as PIPers. Um, And our publications committee is meeting later today at 3 p.m. Central, and they primarily coordinate the dissemination of information through our peer-reviewed journal, DTTP, Documents to the People. They also run the occasional paper series. Um, Additionally, they maintain our Notable Documents panel, and Notable Documents is published in Library Journal. Um, and yeah, they just make our wonderful DTT publication happen, as well as other things like occasional papers and notable docs. Rare and Endangered Government Publications Committee is meeting later today at 1 p.m. Central. This is another group that's going to be transitioned into an interest group later this year, but as I mentioned, their great work is still going to continue. And what they do is they identify rare, unique, and or endangered government publications at any level of government. And they evaluate sources for preservation and conservation, and then also they plan programs and workshops related to the preservation of these sources. And as we all know, um, this is a very important group doing very important work and helping to spread the word about what you can do to help with protecting rare and endangered government publications. Our social media outreach and technology committee is responsible for maintaining and updating all of GODORT's websites, um, as well as promoting GODORT's efforts and our information, and maintaining all of GODORT's social media accounts. Moving on to our interest groups and task forces, the Federal Information Interest Group is looking for a new coordinator for the upcoming 2026-2027 year starting on July 1st. So if you are interested at all in being the coordinator for this or just want to learn more about it, feel free to email me directly at julia@msu.edu. I put my email address in the chat. Um, what they do is they provide a forum for sharing knowledge regarding U.S. federal government information and those with any interest in that. So they meet to talk about current trends, challenges, concerns, and to provide educational opportunities to everyone regarding U.S. federal government information. So if that sounds interesting to you at all, please do reach out to me. Like I said, julia@msu.edu if you are interested in being that coordinator. Our interest groups and task forces are slightly different than our committees. So with committees, you have a chair and then a set list of members on that committee who do the work. Um, for our interest groups and task forces, there's a coordinator who is also a member of GODORT steering, but there's no official roster of members. So any work that you want done as a coordinator of an interest group, you would reach out to the community at large and say, I'm working with, FIG, Federal Information Interest Group. I want to do this project. Who would like to volunteer to assist with that? And anyone in the community, regardless of ALA membership status or GODORT membership status, um, can volunteer and do that work. And so it's not as formal as a committee, and so it allows for a lot more flexibility, which is one of the reasons why we're going to move to have more interest groups and task forces. Our International Documents Task Force meets tomorrow at 3 p.m. Central, and they focus their attention on problems and concerns related to information or international government information. And they provide a forum for the discussion of ideas, problems, and news, um, and then support programs to increase the accessibility and work to improve bibliographic control and collection development for international government documents resources. And if you're available, please join tomorrow to learn more. And our state and local documents interest group. They're meeting Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central, and they provide a forum for librarians and others working with or interested in state and local government information. And they focus their attention on problems and concerns of documents librarians um, relating to state and regional, local government information. And then they also have a wonderful project, the State Agency Database Project, where volunteers maintain LibGuide for their state that covers all sorts of state agencies. If you haven't checked it out, please do so. These slides are uploaded in the annual 2026 LibGuide, so you can click on that and access all the links. Um, And if you're interested in getting involved, please do so. We have other committee spots opening. I only highlighted the coordinator for Federal Information Interest Group just because that's such a high profile one that we really need a person in that role. But if you're interested in getting involved, please scan this QR code, go to the ALA GODORT site to get to the form. It's ALA. I'm putting it in the chat right here. There. Um, is a form you can fill out on the site for that. So please do consider volunteering, and I'm happy to work with you to figure out a great spot for you on one of the committees, or if you're interested in being a coordinator, for example, I'm happy to get you in a spot. And you know, our great works do sometimes cost some money. For example, Documents to the People as an open access publication does cost us money. And while we do have dues to help support a lot of our work, if things have gotten very pricey. An open access publication, for example, is very expensive. So if you are able to, please do consider donating to Godort's general fund to help us with our great works, all of our great LibGuides, our various webinars, things like that. Any little bit that you can contribute helps us maintain the works and the mission of Godort. And then I just have these are, like I said, these are all linked on the slides that you can access in the LibGuides. That way you can actually click on them. But it just gives an overview of some of our resources. DTTP, as I mentioned, Documents to the People, our notable documents, occasional paper series, all of our different LibGuides, our Godort Friday chats, the Help I'm an Excellent Government Information Librarian webinar series, and our Kenya Flash lecture series that we co-host with Pippers. All right, now I know I just blasted through those slides at super fast speed, but I wanted to just give a nice overview of what Godor has to offer, but also allow time for members of the community to ask their questions about Godor, learn how to get involved, anything that you may have questions about or anything like that, feel free, raise your hand, unmute, ask. I'm going to look through the chat because I have not been keeping an eye on that at all. So if anyone has questions or comments or feedback, anything like that about Godor, getting involved, maybe even sharing your own experience as a member of GODOR if you've been here for a while, um, and just let others know. All right. I'm just going through the chat. So if anyone wants to talk about like their experience in GODOR, um, as like a nice member testimonial about getting involved, that would be appreciated. Or like I said, if you have questions, feel free to raise your hand and unmute. Yeah, Suzanne.
So I can do a little Godort testimonial. I basically joined Godort, I think about, it's getting close to 20 years ago. And now I feel very old. But this community was so helpful to me because I didn't have a background really in government information. And the meetings, the guides were so helpful to help me develop into a fairly decent government information librarian. And if you're not sure what you want to do, just join some of our groups and see how we're working. We have such a variety of interests that there's going to be something, I think, for everyone. So just jump in, volunteer. We'll be more than happy to help you and give you guidance and help you on your information journey. And if you are new, if you are like me and have been in this for a long time, just come on in and we've got a place for everyone.
Thank you for your testimonial, Suzanne. And all of our meetings are open to everyone. So even if you're not a GoDort member, and but maybe you're thinking about joining, please come to our meetings and learn more about the group, and then hopefully you'll be inspired to join GoDort, and get involved. Um, and like I said, we have a whole bunch of meetings later today and throughout the rest of the week. And so if you can, please do, stop by any of the meetings that seem interesting to you and learn more about what the different committees and interest groups are doing, the different projects. Um, then just learn more about it. And also you'll get a chance to ask more questions and just meet the different people. Godor is a very nice, wonderful community of people. And we love to help each other. So, you know, always happy to have people visiting our meetings and asking questions and, you know, working on getting involved in everything. Anyone else want to share a testimonial, want to ask questions? Um, Especially some of our longer term members. Um, if you want to share your experience with getting involved or anything like that. And I just want to say welcome to those of you who are new um, and who are joining us, like David. So, yeah, Jenny.
So I'll start with my testimonial in that I started in GovDocs in 1986 as a support staff processing, and that library had an institutional membership to GODORT and to ALA, and that's how I first got started. And then I left, and then I came back after library school and was an FDLP coordinator. And between GovDocsL listserv, which is not GODART, and the GODART community, um, they helped me hit the ground running with the sharing of information, with the development of skills. And then I had to leave again, and now I'm back. Like I had to leave for a long time because um, to be involved in some of the committees, you had to be an ALA member. And when you're working full time, part time, that wasn't possible. One thing I love about GODART is so many of the interest groups, we want you as a member, we want you active because it's such a great group. But if you're not ready for that commitment, there's still opportunity to be involved. That's all.
Thank you, Jenny, for sharing. Yes, we try and make it so there's lots of opportunities because we know that when you're working with government information, sometimes that's just one of many hats that you're wearing, and it might just be a very small part of your job. And so you may not have a lot of time to, completely devote to being a full member or anything like that on a committee. But like I said, there's plenty of opportunities for you to contribute your time, your expertise as you're able to. We try to make it as flexible as possible to make sure that everyone who can be involved can do what they can and what they're comfortable with without, overwhelming everybody. Um, because we know that everyone is so busy with everything else that we have to do. And it's rare to find someone who just does government information and nothing else. And even if you only did that, it's still really hard to find room in your schedule to also do committee work. So with our different opportunities and our frequent asks for volunteers to help with special projects, we're trying to make it so anyone can get involved and to keep sharing the work. Bernadine.
Hi. When we started GODORT, it was because in the American Library Association, there was nobody that we could go to talk. When I first started as a documents librarian, the library director sent me out to 3 depository libraries to see what they were doing. And University of Kansas, I went and I was so impressed with what they did. Then I went to a couple of libraries in Iowa. And what impressed me was that they would have treated me like the Queen of Sheba. They just said, oh, somebody really cares about government documents and it has made an effort to even come and interview me about how I'm running my documents. That is when, and then I went to an ALA meeting of a subcommittee on government documents, which didn't have membership, and they were doing absolutely nothing for documents. And several of us, Mina Peace was one, we started a CERT group on government information, which then we decided we would start the roundtable. But at that committee meeting, when I met with the Chicago depository librarians and others, we said, well, look, we're here, we're going to start our own group. And that's what happened. That document librarians needed the administrators of libraries to recognize them as important. So many of our collections were in the basement or they were in the attic, didn't have staff, they didn't have money to travel. So that was our primary goal at the beginning, educate library directors that government documents is important. And we became absolutely essential. And well, we have had our wonderful GODORT for over 50 years. And we're going to have a panel at the actual ALA meeting with one of the early GODORT people, Judy Russell, who was just retired from University of Florida. The two of us are going to be on a panel with Sarah Erickson to talk about the history of GODORT. So if any of you are going to ALA, please come to our meeting. And there's also, thank you, we set up a membership meeting, which is great news. So I'm just hoping that some of you will actually be going to ALA and meet each other in person.
Thank you so much, Bernadine. And as Suzanne pointed out in the chat, for those of you who don't know, Bernadine is one of the founding members of GODORT. And we are always so happy when she's able to join us at our different meetings. And I'm so excited to see you again, Bernadine, an annual in a couple of weeks. Yeah, Andy.
So, like the other ones that have been in the chat here, so I was brand new. GovDocs was not my initial area where I went into. I'm like Good or Sponsors to Help series, Help an Accidental Government Information Librarian. I'm one of those. So I got hired at my current institution 25 years ago, and I came with a library tech, so I didn't even have a degree yet. And I knew I wanted to. So a year into my employment, I started my degree at Drexel and started focusing more on like tech services, cataloging, that type of thing. And while I was doing that, my people here started kind of transitioning me over to that type of work. And our depository coordinator at the time was getting ready to retire. So things just kind of fell into my lap. So I'm like probably only the third depository coordinator that's been at this institution. And for those who don't know, that's a federal depository library program that my library is part of. So I'm an accidental government information librarian and joined ALA, eventually joined GODORT, just kind of see what it was. And I lurked a lot at the meetings. But here I am 7 years later and still in a chair of some capacity, which will be going off at the end of this month. So there's lots of opportunities. There's lots of people here that will help you, give you insight, and I'm still learning each and every day. So the main reason I'm part of ALA is because of this group. And I think you'll find there's a lot of people who will say the same thing. I am a member of another division on the roundtable, but I spend most of my time with this roundtable. So good people here, good work's being done.
Thank you for sharing, Andy. So there was a little bit of discussion in the chat regarding what makes state and local documents, the state and local documents interest group section unique. And so it's just most of the time when you talk government information, the main focus is either international or federal. So the fact that we have a community just focusing only on state and local, um, it's a very specialized group that doesn't get a lot of attention often. You know, when you talk government information, you're thinking of the big ones. You're thinking of the federal government, you're thinking of international. You're not really looking at the smaller stuff, but it's still incredibly important. And so that's one of the reasons why we have the state and local documents interest group is to focus all their efforts and attention on issues that affect that category. Just because like I said, it doesn't get a lot of attention often, and we wanted to make sure that it's not being ignored because it's so critically important and in some ways even more at risk than like federal or international government documents, just because, it's much narrower the scope and a smaller set of people who would be affected if, you know, for example, I'm in Michigan, so like if the state of Michigan documents, it only affects those really in Michigan. Um, but a lot of the issues go across the board. So many states face the same issue in terms of their government documents. Local documents are in some ways like the most at risk just because, small governments don't have lots of funds to preserve these and keep access to that information available. And so that's why we have that group that focuses on highlighting those issues, working on ways to help promote ways of helping to preserve and increase accessibility of all of those documents. Yeah, Jenny.
Oh, I would say that what happens, so that I would say that the state and local publications actually really do impact other states. If especially when we're doing notable documents and I'm looking and judging those, and I'm reading California has this incredible report about reparations for systematic or systemic racism that could really be applied to all the other states could be using this as a model. There there's they really aren't as insular as we all want to think they are. Um, and that's one really great thing about the state and local group is that we really do share across.
Thank you. Yes, I slightly misspoke. I didn't mean to say that like they're not important. I meant that there's a perceived lack of,
Yes.
value for someone who's like, oh, well, I'm in Michigan. I don't care about stuff happening in California. But that's not true at all. And there is some great, we could take things from other states, but you have to be able to find and use those things, which is part of the main issue is actually like finding and getting access to those documents when maybe they're not super captured well because, you know, funding is a thing and they maybe they're in a state where preserving that type of stuff isn't a priority. So
Yeah.
that's something that gets tackled in the discussions in state and local documents is
Yeah.
how to get around those issues and how to work on protecting, preserving, and increasing access across the board for those.
And for anybody that does any reference using the state database research guide is so helpful. Um, I'll get that link in the chat. And I wasn't saying that you said that. I'm just trying to really re-emphasize what you were saying is that yes, they really do. And then we also help each other in terms of process.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Does anyone have anything that they want to share? Um, or any questions or anything? And if you are heading to annual, we will also be having a GODORT 101 session there in person. And so it will allow you, if you're able to make it, to come chat with those of us who've been in GODORT for a while. And, sometimes it's a lot easier to talk in person, or maybe you feel more comfortable talking in person. So if you're able to make it to Chicago for annual, please come to the GODORT events. Please chat with any of us, even if you see us just like walking around the convention center, stop us and chat. We're all happy to talk to anyone about government documents and about GODOR. Um, and like I said, we are very friendly people, and we love to get people involved and to encourage, especially people who are new to government documents, um, because it kind of is an overwhelming role when you step into it. But we have built a really strong community that will help support, all new people working with government information or people who've been working with it for years, but maybe just want to re-up their skills or anything like that. So, find us, talk to us. We're always happy to talk about GODOR and GovDocs. All right. If no one has any questions or nothing more to share, um, it, I want to thank those of you who've been participating in the chat. Um, a lot these questions have been handled beautifully in the chat, so I'm not going to touch them because I would just be reiterating what others have said um, in in answering them. So I just want to thank those of you who've asked your questions in the chat and those of you who responded to the questions. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you all for being able to join us today. Our next session is going to be at 12 p.m. Central will be the general membership meeting. Once again, everyone is welcome to attend. Um, and anyone is welcome to attend any of the GODOR events for the rest of the week and also at annual. Um, so with that, thank you all for your time, and I will see you back here at 12 p.m. Central.
Should we leave?
You can stay. I'm just going to stop the recording.
Okay.